Welcome back. The time is 18 minutes past 8. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidiri, and we'll be looking at a very, very interesting topic, as I mentioned before we went to the break. We'll be chatting a bit about the African National Congress and them looking and seemingly looking to be contemplating a government of national unity. We'll be speaking to political analyst and director of programs at the Rivonia Circle, Tessa Dooms. Tessa, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Salam Media.
Thank you for having me.
Tessa, I think for the longest time, a lot of analysts and a lot of thought leaders always before the elections predicted quite correctly that this is an election where possibly the ANC might lose outright majority, number one, but also an election which will be defined by coalitions when all is said and done. But now we're seeing another term making its furry into the conversation: government of national unity. Coalitions, government of national unity, what's the difference?
Well, a government of national unity is not a coalition in the normal sense, because a coalition usually assumes that you're looking at different partners to make up a number in order to have enough seats to pass votes, to get different votes in the vote for speaker, all of that. And so you're looking at the coalition on a numeric basis in the main to make up parties that have a voting bloc. A government of national unity assumes something different, that you're trying to bring parties together in a way to form a more cohesive bloc of parties that can begin to find each other regardless of what numbers they got. So you're looking at a wider range of interests when you're looking at a government of national unity. So if we think of 1994, we had a government of national unity even though the ANC won outright. And that was really because there was a tenuous situation where we were going through this transition, and the minority groups in the country wanted to have a sense that even though the ANC would govern, that they would not be blocked out entirely, and they could tell their constituents that they too have a seat at the table. And so I think that is the premise of this moment in terms of thinking about a government of national unity goes far beyond numbers, because there are many parties who just two or three parties could make up as needed. But this is a broader appeal to working together across different divides in the country, and it has both its benefits but also its risks.
And you touch on, there was a government of national unity post-apartheid in 1994. Well, it's 30 years down the line. The ANC has been in power for, most of those 30 years. Right now, they are coming into this having lost outright majority. There are almost 5 political parties that are seemingly going to be making up part of our new administration. You have the DA, the EFF, the ANC, Patriotic Alliance also, and the MK, all having a say in the formation of this new government. Going into negotiations, what does the ANC have to offer? Or are they coming, in a back foot, cap in hand, and basically begging these political parties to kind of participate without making any outrageous demands, so to put it?
Well, I think the ANC is very much in the driving seat when it comes to the negotiations itself. And I would say that barring the MK party, parties have actually approached the ANC and have been willing to engage with the ANC. The ANC has said that they've reached out to the MK party and they have not gotten a response yet. And so it would seem that it's not the ANC that is going cap in hand, but rather parties that are approaching the ANC mutually in the main. I do think that it comes in with a variety of different issues, though, because while it may be in the driving seat, it has a lot of considerations to make in terms of, for instance, private holders. It needs to size the political party. It has to go cap in hand to its stakeholders. Its stakeholders include the unions. It includes the SACP. It includes SANCO and civil society formations that still support the ANC. It also includes business and the markets that have been spoken about quite a lot in the last few days. And so the ANC's got that multiple universe of stakeholders that it also needs to take into consideration as it comes to the negotiating table. So it bears quite a heavy responsibility because it can't just use its majority as it pleases at this point. But I do think that there are some inherent risks as the ANC goes in, especially for its firm ideological positions on certain issues, whether it be foreign affairs issues like the issue around Palestine, or whether it be issues around social protection, for example, and grants. It's going into the room, especially in a government of national unity. It increases the number of interests around the table. And so now you don't have just the ANC's internal ideological battles as a broad church. You're now battling with people who are in some cases diametrically opposed to the ANC on certain issues. And so the more people are around the table, as would be the case in a government of national unity, the more there will be robust debate, but also opposition to some of the things that the ANC voter base may think is very important for the ANC to hold on to. And that poses a political risk for the ANC more than it does even a risk for the country.
So, with that being said, are you saying would it be easier for the ANC to go into a coalition with one or two political parties? A lot of people are throwing ANC DA coalition, which would please the markets. But then you have another coalition, the MK EFF IFP coalition, which would be most are saying would be the most pro-black coalition that would ultimately see a lot of economic redress happening. Which of the two would seemingly be the perfect scenario for South Africa and the current state of affairs that we find ourselves in?
I certainly don't think there are only two options, and I don't think any option is easy. I mean, people are not talking about the possibility of an ANC-MK coalition. But that coalition is not far-fetched, considering that the MK is the most recent breakaway from the ANC. On political terms, many of the people in those two parties are quite approximate to each other. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that they may be able to find each other, more quickly than other parties may. So I just think that we're trying to simplify this. We're trying to find a silver bullet. And I think that we really need to know, number one, what are the real things on the table? People talk about the DA coalition, but we have no idea what the DA's demands are. The DA have not publicly said what all their demands are. The EFF have said what their demands are, but clearly the demands will need to be negotiable because they come in from a weaker position. I think we must deal with the real facts of what the coalition negotiations are and the real agreements that get put on the table, rather than what we fantastically think in our mind might be the best solution. Right now, we must err on the side of fact rather than wishful thinking and conspiracy, because we may say, ANC-DA coalition is the easiest one, but we have no idea how society might react to that. We have no idea what the backlash might be to that. We have no idea what the demands of the DA might be and whether we actually agree with those demands. So let's all deal with facts rather than conjecture, and I think we'll be in a better position to get through this political space.
All right. I want to ask a question, and I would like you to answer it after the short break that we'll be taking. A lot has been said about the markets, about whether the new government that's ultimately being put together will please the markets, but also internally there's a lot of people that are saying maybe we should ignore the markets for once and try to go with the will of the people. Majority of the people in the country voted for certain political parties, and they want to see the political parties' policies being the ones that ultimately run the country. So after we go to the break, how does the ANC strike a balancing act between pleasing its constituency and its alliance partners, but also pleasing, the proverbial markets who are so sensitive and might run away depending on who goes to parliament and becomes part of that next administration? Please answer this question after this.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Contact Lenasia Livestock and Poultry for all your sadaqah, akika and kurbani requirements. We offer clean, hygienic abattoir-style and refrigeration facilities. Sheep, goats and cows are available at competitive market-related prices, direct to the public. We slaughter, slice and distribute on your behalf. But that's not all. Introducing Meatmasters Halal Butchery, our sister company situated on our farm in Lenasia. Unbeatable prices on lamb, beef and chicken. Lenasia Livestock and Poultry. Livestock is our business. We are Sanha approved. Telephone 011 857 1774. Call now.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Celebrate the spirit of Gurbani with Penny Appeal South Africa. Join us in honoring this prophetic tradition by donating your Gurbani and allow us to reach thousands in need. Make a meaningful impact with South African Gurbani at 2,200 Rand and Malawi Gurbani at 950 Rand. Donate online at www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 11 00 573. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name. Valley's Motor Spares.
Are you planning a wedding, birthday party, corporate event, or any special occasion? Kani's Catering Services got you covered. Our catering services are here to elevate your event to unforgettable heights. From tantalizing appetizers to mouth-watering main courses and desserts, our culinary creations are crafted with passion and precision to delight your guests' taste buds. Our spit braai is a talk of the town. Indulge in succulent, tender meats, slow roasted to perfection over an open flame. Kani's Catering Services chefs bring creativity and expertise to every dish they prepare, ensuring that each bite is a culinary masterpiece. We take care of your guests while you relax and enjoy every moment of your function. Whether it's plated meals to a simple buffet, we are on top of it all. Ready to start planning your perfect event? Get in touch with us today to discuss your catering needs and request a personalized quote. Let us take your event to the next level with our exceptional catering services. Kani's Catering Services, situated at number 373 Jabund Lovo Street, Pietermaritzburg. Call now 033 342 3511 or email us on info@kanis.co.za for Pietermaritzburg and surrounding areas only. Visit www.kanis.co.za.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back, guys. Still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidire, and I'm still with Tessa Dooms, and we are talking about the ANC and them contemplating a possible government of national unity and what that will ultimately look like for all South Africans post the elections. Tessa, thank you so much for staying with us. Before I went on the break, I asked the question about striking the balance, between, the will of the people and real economic redress and policies that will change the lives of average South Africans, but also the markets, international investors, who want a certain administration, a certain feel in parliament that might not necessarily reflect what the constituencies of the various political parties looked for when voting. How does the ANC strike the balance between pleasing the two?
Well, I think it's not binary that the markets are outside of the ANC's constituency. If we think about business interests rather than calling it the markets, the market is an abstract, right? And there are definitely business interests, not only outside the country, but inside the country that have aligned themselves with the ANC, and business interests that have voted for the ANC and other parties. So business interests are both part of the democratic space and stakeholders, and not just external forces. That being said, all stakeholders' voices need to matter in South Africa. And I think that there is an overemphasis on business stakeholder interest in a way that is lopsided in the conversation that we've been having, I think, at least in the last few days. So should business interests and people from business communities say what it is that they think is best? Sure, but so should other groups. What I think is dangerous is when we prioritize those interests over particularly the outcome of a vote. So, and I've asked this question before. If we had a markets conversation that says business and the markets would prefer that the PAC, that got one seat in parliament, be the government of the day. That's the thing that's going to rally the markets. Do we then ignore what has happened with our democratic process in order to only focus on what the markets have said? And I know that I'm taking an extreme view, but that's the absurdity of the argument. The absurdity of the argument is whatever the markets say or whatever people say will boost the markets, that's the only thing that should matter. And so while it shouldn't matter that we are taking to context the entire story of what different stakeholders and what different decisions might land to, that we don't prioritize some voices over others, especially off the back of millions of people having voted and wanting their voices to count. I do think more stakeholders outside of the political space should speak up at this point. And I agree that those voices should be heard. But again, this over-prioritization of of market forces, especially because we're calling it market forces. We're not even calling it business interests or investors. Those people can tell us what they want. Market forces makes it so vague that we can't have a conversation about what are the actual things that are wanted. Is it just that you want a Ramaphosa face or you just want the DA present? Why? What is the underlying values and ethos and outcome that is pursued? I think if we were having that kind of conversation, it would be a much conversation in terms of trying to get to a point that is reasonable rather than just being forced a narrative that doesn't really make sense.
No, definitely. And, again, if, our sole priority was pleasing the markets and having them, dictate, who gets to be in power and who's not, then what would be the whole point of elections, right? We'll just ask them who do they want, and then we just have that person and that political party lead the country. I have a question here online. Somebody's asking me, what would a government of national unity look like in literal terms? And would it not reflect what we're seeing in our metros with votes of no confidence every week and service delivery ultimately being ignored? Care to answer that, Tessa?
Yeah, so a government of national unity would mean that parties big and small would have seats at the table. The ANC has for over a year now been very interested in having thresholds to determine who can be part of any coalitions. So here they're talking about either a 1 or 2% threshold, being the parties that are over that threshold could have a seat at the table of governance. But a government of national unity basically means that you're not just looking at the numbers. So that means small parties and big parties could end up having ministerial roles, for example. But just to answer the other question, we're going to have a coalition. Whether or not it's a government of national unity or just a coalition between 2 or 3 parties. But essentially, those coalitions need to be managed better than they've been managed at the level of the municipalities. They've not been managed well, and we've not seen the interests of society and the voters being centered. And I think that's just a question of how we manage coalitions. But right now, we must live with the fact that we're going to have some version, either of a minority government that has a coalition on a case-by-case basis, an agreement on a case-by-case basis, coalition governments that have multiple people in that coalition, multiple parties in that coalition.
And just lastly, before I let you go, as a political analyst, with the many scenarios that have been thrown around, which one would make the most sense for South Africa right now?
I have many preferences, but I'm really going to ask us to err on the side of knowing what the exact things are on the table. Because we don't know what people are asking for, I don't think it would be prudent to answer that question.
And also, our politicians, I think, for the longest time have proven quite egotistical, particularly, with the ANC. For the longest time, they've run parliament with so much arrogance. 30 years down the line, are our politicians mature enough to work together in some sort of a coalition, government of national unity? I mean, I think that question that was posed online, kind of phrases it correctly. I mean, we've seen coalitions in metros, whether in Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, City of Johannesburg, the motions of no confidence. And I'm thinking that, but at a national scale, and just how detrimental that would be for the country.
One of the great opportunities of coalition governments is more accountability and more transparency. The more people who are in the room who come from different parties, the more possibilities we have as the citizens to ask questions about what's happening in those rooms. Because the ANC has been at the helm by itself and has had a parliamentary majority, we've not even asked questions about why the ANC votes the way they do on budgets. I think one of the things that's going to happen in the next 5 years, budgets are not going to be passed easily. But the maturity of political parties is to not just block it for political reasons, to do so asking real questions about whether the budget is appropriate or not, what issues should be funded. So I think that there's an opportunity for accountability if we do coalitions right.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Tessa, thank you so much for your insights and breaking it down for us about what a government of national unity would ultimately look like. We're going to leave it here, but I think we'll be talking to you a lot of times as many of these scenarios unfold and we see the demands of the various political parties and ultimately where the ANC chooses to lean. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time. Goodbye. That was Tessa Doomsday, political analyst and director of programs at Rivonia Circle, giving us insights on what actually a government of national unity would look like, and also all of the political parties concerned, what role would they be playing? We've had a taste of what government of national unity looked like in 1994 when the ANC, still having have won the elections with an outright majority, chose to include all of the political parties, including the National Party, the NP, which were the bearers of apartheid, but still making them part of the new administration. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see as the days unfold. I'm not sure if this is still true, but since the day of the announcement of the elections and the numbers looking like they currently do, everyone concerned, all the political parties have at least 14 days to form a new government, or else we'll be heading back to the elections. And I think this is going to be something that's going to be challenged by the very various political parties, because there isn't time, but there's so much that will be going into this. I mean, as I said before, all of the various political parties making all kinds of demands, the ANC also not wanting to be bullied, and also all of the alliance partners and also the constituencies, the people that voted, because there's someone that voted for the ANC and decided to vote for the ANC because of their policies and not vote for the DA because of their policies and their stance on various issues, but then would be feeling betrayed if the ANC would go into a coalition with the DA and vice versa. Someone might have voted for the DA because of their policies and not necessarily for the ANC. And now the DA, instead of being, the opposition, is now in bed, well, the proverbial bed, with the ANC. So I think I'm only mentioning the ANC and the DA because it's, the governing party and also the official opposition. But as Tessa said, there's so many scenarios that it's kind of difficult to wrap your head around, especially if, we hadn't yet understand the different demands that the political parties are going to be making to each other. You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp Our studio line 0116800355. WhatsApp line 06176600355. Which scenario would best play out for you? I'm sure by now you've seen all of the different scenarios that have been played out. That might play out. MK is in the mix. The EFF is in the mix, and the ANC. That might be one. The DA and ANC. That might be one again, and a government of national unity with all the other political parties, regardless of their numbers, coming in and saying, okay, everything aside, we'll be working for the good and the betterment of all South Africans. So tell us, which one would you prefer the most? A government of national unity or a coalition between various political parties? It's going to be really, really interesting times ahead. And I think South Africa has entered the uncharted waters of national unity government and coalitions. It's going to be a very, very interesting couple of days. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Abid Karim from the Al Limdad Foundation. We'll be chatting about the devastating storms that have hit the KZN. I'm sure we've all seen the pictures and the various videos on social media in the KZN, and just the sheer scale of the devastation that the people of the KZN, particularly in the Tongat area, have had to endure because of these storms. We'll be speaking to Abid Karim of Al Limdad Foundation about the work that they are doing, but most importantly, how you can get involved right after this.